Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I am your host, Dennis Betholkis, and this is iZombie, Season 5, Episode 11, Killer Queen. And welcome everybody. So yes, today is going to be a twofer. And, again, last week was Comic-Con, so I had to, forego doing some stuff last week. I don't know what I was doing last week during iZombie. It was Thursday, so I have no idea. I don't remember. Everything kind of blurs. So let me get a little business out of the way first here. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. You can hit the dislike button. I just asked you to go down below in the comment section. Tell me what it is you don't like. Give me a little constructive criticism about what it is you don't like. And also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on next again, you can hit the little bell down below down there. And if you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go into the bell settings and get as many or as little notifications as you want. You can also go to my website, suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule there. It's also mirrored on my Facebook page as well for Suspended Fanimation. I have a Twitter. I have an Instagram. And I also have a Patreon, but I don't have any tiers set up on the Patreon at the moment. Yes, it is Double Dennis Day. And on top of that, since we are in the home stretch for iZombie and iZombie being done forever, at the end, the very last episode, which I believe is August 2nd, if I remember correctly, it's August something. We're going to do the giveaway like I've been doing for most of these shows. And this giveaway is DC related because iZombie was a DC comic. It's going to be the Comic-Con bag that I got at Comic-Con this year. So this is for Superhero Girls. All you got to do on the very last episode is put in a comment on the very last episode. And I'm going to give a week. And then after that, I am going to pick a name. And whoever, gets picked gets this sent to them. All they have to do is, I'm going to announce it. And they're going to send me with their address. And I will send that out to them. And look on the back there. It even has Comic-Con. This is the 50th anniversary of Comic-Con bag, by the way. So there you go. I didn't have any iZombie related stuff, unfortunately. So that was as close as I get there. Egads, the timelines have crossed and good Dennis has crossed over. No. It's evil Dennis no matter which way you go. Slur me. So yeah, I had to shave this thing off. It's fucking humid here. I mean, really, really humid. And I could not stand it with the beard and everything else. So it had to go. Yeah, it was kind of funny. Comic-Con was over with. Temperatures all of a sudden raised dramatically, and so did the humidity with it. It was really, really weird. I don't know. So with that said, and business out of the way, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the shit out of the episode. If you haven't seen the episode, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. Exactly. There we go. And yes, Pen Farm Girl, it will grow back in no time. I'm hoping, all this nasty weather is going to be done by August. So, Jealous Joe. What was that? You look 12. Really? I couldn't tell if I looked younger or if I looked older without it. So, yeah, I can't. We took. I don't know what you mean by that, Mr. Roboto. So yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. So let's get started, shall we? Because we had a lot of stuff happening, and I've got Krypton to go after this at 7:00. So where we left off, and if I remember correctly, I think this is the first episode of iZombie that we had a direct going from one episode to the next episode with a cliffhanger where they kind of took off on the next episode exactly where they left off in the previous episode, which was Ravi and Liv stuck in Martin's basement, and they found Utopium, the original Utopium, but there's no way out except going through the Romero zombies and the window on the other side of the Romero zombies in the cage, because Martin is coming home at this point. Hey, Apple Crow, thanks. Nice. And Martin, of course, and Enzo come in and they're talking about the info that they got from their zombie senator. Remember the zombie senator they had set up and scratched and all that stuff? He's feeding them information. I guess they're going to have in Las Vegas, they have an infrared zombie detection system that's happening in the Vegas airport, and he just needs to know when to take it offline so that whatever they're planning can happen and they can sneak their zombies through. And that's one of the things that they're doing. And Martin notices that someone's been in his room. He sees that the door handle is ajar, opens it up, finds that the utopium is missing, and immediately pulls back the curtains to see the grate on the back window open. And of course, Liv and Ravi are gone. They actually got through the Romero zombies without getting eaten, which was kind of interesting. So we have drag queens. So the murder of the week was drag queens, is what we had. We had a drag queen get murdered in the dressing room by a 6-foot strand of pearls. And yeah. So Mike and Gary are the names of the two drag queens that own the place. God, it just it just was very, very interesting. It's called Prince Mary's, is what the name of the drag queen place was, the drag queen bar. So yeah, one of the drag queens left to go and get some new nails and came back and found the other drag queen dead. There we go. But yeah, so Liv, of course, ends up eating the brain, and the way she eats the brain is she makes a rainbow-colored Jello mold with brain pieces inside of it, and sticks a sparkler in the top of it for pride, which I thought was pretty damn funny. It really was. So it was interesting. They get that done, and Aravi, of course, has the original batch of Utopium. He's sending out to Charlie over at the CDC in order to analyze it, and so they can find a cure for this, of course. And Michael Stansfield, of course, the name of the drag queen who got murdered. And Clive and Liv, of course, interview Howard Denny, who is the manager of the club and also the ex-husband of the drag queen who got murdered. So might have motive because, of course, he also gained control of the club. It was in Mike's will, and that's the whole thing. It's but Gary, the other drag queen who found him, also owned the club with Mike at the time, but sold his share to Mike. And then, of course, the whole drag queen thing had blown up. I don't think Ravi should be trusting the CDC either, Maddie. But he trusts Charlie, is who he trusts. But yeah, I agree with you on that. And hopefully, so there is some convoluted plot in this one as well. We'll get to it in a second. But yeah, just we'll get to it. There's some stuff in it that could have been handled. They did a little Rube Goldbrickian thing with the plot here. So let's just keep going along here. So Blaine gets told the news that his client was shot through the heart right after he ate a Freilich brain and became human. Of course, because he was cheating on his wife with a mistress who wasn't a zombie. She was a human. And once he became human, I guess he got caught in the act with the mistress, and the wife shot him through the heart. And of course, the money that he was supposed to pay Blaine was being transferred from a Bahama account, and of course got frozen out because the family put all the assets into probate, and that included all the Bahama account money. So it froze it. So he's got no money, which always goes to tell you kids, you get the payment up front first for whatever drugs you're selling. I mean, for whatever you're selling. That includes comics as well. So yeah, there you go. Tired of zombies anyway. This one is a little different. I'm liking the way they did this one, Joe. So Blaine, of course, is we have Donnie coming in, and he's looking for this bagpiper's number because he's getting married to Darcy, and Darcy comes in her wedding dress, and of course, is all upset because Donnie saw her in her wedding dress. And Blaine, of course, has bigger issues to fry than Donnie of what's going on there. So Gary, the other drag queen, says everyone wanted to kill someone at the club because it was a small dressing room, a lot of drag queens, and of course, when you put that many drag queens in a small room, of course they want to kill each other at some point in time. And he says, well, maybe you should talk to Bitchcraft. Bitchcraft was the one that really didn't like them, wanted to buy the place out, and thought of themselves as a superstar kind of thing. Did not follow how they did things of doing like Liza Minnelli, Cher, the traditional drag queen attire, I guess you could say, or shtick. And of course, Bitchcraft hates the way they ran the business, of course, and wanted to buy it out from them at that point. So Ravi, in the meantime, gets some brain rolls for Major because he gets a tip that basically he wants to goad Major into helping him out with finding these kidnapped Freilich kids, the ones that have been disappeared completely. And he thinks he has a lead on it because Kavanaugh, while Liv was actually working the case for the drag queen, ran into Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was the one who was working the case of the old rich guy who became a human and then got shot through the heart. And he's interviewing the mistress. So, of course, they're following the mistress because the mistress might have a line on who has the Freilich kids. You follow all of that? Again, you need a roadmap in order to find this one out. It was a little bit on the rough side on that. So basically what Ravi wants Major to do is pose as a rich guy so that he can get in good with the mistress, Clarissa is her name, and lead them to the Freilich kids, of course. So Clarissa is the head waitress at this place, and Major goes in, of course, as himself, and says that he wants to leave Seattle, but he also wants to become human. He misses being human, all this kind of stuff, and he's talking to her about this, and she goes, "Okay, well, I might know a guy that can turn you human again, and if I can do that, will you take me with you? That's part of the deal." That if I can make you human, I want to leave as well. And he's like, yeah, sure, we can do that. And he hands her a card. Well, the card has a tracker in it. It's one of the little toys he gets from working as the head of Fillmore Graves. And so Ravi and Major have seen where where she's been going all over the place with this card. And they find out that she's actually down in southern Seattle. And that's where she's been hitting the most, down in that area. So they decide to go down there. Let's see what else we got. Sorry, I got lost in my notes for a minute there. So Liv, of course, is with Graham and the fake coyote Riley, who's actually a zombie, and Riley has these 3 girls that she's going to take with her out of Seattle because supposedly their mom has cancer and so they need to go and all this stuff. But it's actually a setup because Graham's boyfriend, who's a zombie, is being held by Martin, really, is who he's being held by, Martin and Enzo. And Riley, of course, is working for Martin and Enzo. We don't know exactly what they need to do. Now, when we get to the plot of what the hell Martin and Enzo are doing, I'll tell you an easier way of doing this. It was really kind of a weird, roundabout way of doing things. But hey, let's go ahead and we'll deal with that in a second. So Clive and Liv end up questioning Bitchcraft, who isn't about the past stuff, of course, and just wants to play herself. And they question Bitchcraft about the business partner who says drama got in the way of them being able to buy the bar. And that was pretty much what it was. There was no animosity or anything like that. It's just that there was some drama. He wasn't able to buy the bar. That was it. And Liv shows the rhinestones that Bitchcraft has. So they're actually interviewing Bitchcraft at the club, and Bitchcraft goes out, does her routine, and then they have to sweep up rhinestones and fake diamonds off the floor. So Liv goes and grabs an evidence bag, grabs some of those things because they found some rhinestones and diamonds where where Mike was murdered at. So Liv actually goes and takes a look at them and says, "Hey, take a look at these rhinestones. The ones that were on Gary's dress are really they get sewn on. They have a sew through, like a hole through them and all this stuff. And these are the cheap rhinestones, and cheap rhinestones are just glue on and they fall right off. Those are the ones that Bitchcraft has. Those are the ones that were found around Mike's body. Yeah, and so he's the one that they have a suspicion is the one that has killed Mike at this point. In the meantime, Enzo and Martin have Graham's zombie boyfriend, and Martin gets word that Riley and her team have left Seattle. And so Enzo decides that they don't need, the boyfriend anymore, Graham's boyfriend anymore. And also he tells Martin, he goes, your daughter's a liability as well. You're relying a little bit too much on her, and we need to get rid of her because she's getting a little too close. And he's like, yeah, I guess you're right, is what he says. And he says, do whatever you think is necessary. So Clive and Liv bring in Bitchcraft. They're looking at the security camera. So there's only 2 security cameras in the entire place of the bar. And he says, isn't that you dressed as Cher? And he's like, no, that's not me. He goes, look at the cankles. He says, I'm a slim bitch, as he puts it. That guy has cankles. That's who you want to find. And Liv has a vision of the killer dropping their wig, which of course is a big Cher wig. And Liv has Jenkins pull all the shares that were in the place at the time, and they find one that's covering over their face, but enters but doesn't leave. And so now they know that they're looking for a Cher impersonator at this point. Yeah. Like I said, it's kind of a weird thing. I'm going to get through this a little bit faster just because it's even boring me sometimes with some of this stuff. So Ravi and Major go on a stakeout to an old warehouse. They find the Freilich kids. Major gets shot in the hip, but of course he's a zombie, so it's not a big deal. Ravi hits the guy with the car full of Freilich kids, which he finds by accident, and they get out of there. In the meantime, Blaine is pissed that the kids, because Blaine was the one that had all the Freilich kids, have been taken. And so now all his backup money that he was going to have is now gone at this point. So he's calling up his investor to find out if he has any more money anywhere. And he's like, no. He goes, wait a minute. There's one account. The account that you were getting Fillmore Graves was paying you. He goes, well, wait a minute. No, that's over in Donnie's name now, but there's regular payments coming in from Fillmore Graves. And that's when Blaine finds out that Donnie is still supplying brains to Fillmore Graves, and he's pretty pissed off. Yeah. So Clive and Liv come to the bar to re-question Gary, and Clive posits the idea that Gary dressed in Mike's old Cher outfit, because Mike had talked about that before. Gary had talked about Mike being a really good Cher impersonator, but kind of shelved that whole thing. And so they find the dress that they had seen in the photo in the dressing room, and they say, okay, so what Gary did is he dressed up as Cher, came in, killed Mike, got dressed, and then went out through the fire door in the back. And he left the glitter, the fake rhinestones, and the fake diamonds to frame Bitchcraft for it. And of course, so now that he's found this all out, Gary, of course, spills the beans and says, yes, I found out that he was going to sell the club and turn it into a parking lot. He goes, I could have handled it if he just sold it to somebody else and it would still remain the bar, but not being a parking lot. And that's why he decided to kill him. And he confesses to everything, and that's that. In the meantime, Stephen, Graham's boyfriend's body is found in the park. And Liv is talking to Kavanaugh about it, and he goes, yeah, the kid was considered missing a few weeks ago, and they're going through photos, and she sees a picture of Stephen with Graham, who is one of her coyotes. And she's like, oh my gosh, because I have to tell him. And so she leaves, of course. In the meantime, Donnie and Darcy are going to get married in the bar, But Donnie can't find Darcy and is wondering if she might have gotten cold feet at this point. And everything's all set up. And that's when Blaine grabs him and says, "Hey, we checked the motel. I need you to come with me." And he brings him into the back room and he goes, I had them bring her body here. And Blaine plays it off that she died basically of her Freilich disease and just automatically just kind of passed away. And he goes, "I'll give you some time with her, but remember, we have to deliver the body to our customer. So I'll give you a little bit of time." I'm fairly sure that Blaine killed Darcy at this point just because of what Donnie did. And that's pretty fucked up. But yeah. Oh, man. In the meantime, we see Riley and the girls enter a brothel in Pahrump, Nevada, pull out guns with silencers on it, and kill all the girls in the brothel, and then take their place. Yeah, and Riley calls Martin to tell him that they're going to eat the brains and then flip the open sign back on. And then we pan up to a banner and we see "Welcome the National Home Electronics Convention." So their whole plot is, in order to spread zombieism across the rest of the country, they're going to have sex with a whole bunch of conventioneers to spread it to them so they take it home and spread it to whatever other family that they have. I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. You have the guy who created Utopium, which is the basis of the zombie plague to begin with. And you can't just like go and taint a water supply with it or something else. You have to have this Rube Goldbrickian plot of, having these women pose as prostitutes to have sex with conventioneers to spread it. It just didn't make any sense to me. So I'm sorry. I know the writers out there, they have to do weird stuff with their writing and all that, but dude, there was an easier way. Yeah, you had Utopium right there. You had the creator of Utopium right there. And yeah. Anyway. So Liv comes into the Renegade HQ and she's talking to Graham and she wants to talk to Graham, and Ravi and Major, of course, have brought the Freilich kids there, and they tell her what happened, that, how they saved these kids and all that stuff, and how, Major got shot and all that stuff as well. So she pulls Graham aside and asks him about Steven, and he goes, "I don't know any Stephen Kenny." And then she shows him the picture, and then he breaks down and starts crying and tells her, "I'm sorry." He goes, "They made me do it." And he finally tells her that the zombies, that Riley is a zombie posing as a human, and that they went someplace to Nevada. He doesn't know exactly what's going on. All he knows is they're going to Nevada. So she calls up her dad, FaceTiming him. And of course, he is at the warehouse, or wherever he's at, whatever other planet. We still don't know what the hell the Romero zombies are all about there. Again, the whole thing is really kind of fucked up. It's you needed to mix it with Max Rager. Not really, Pen Farm Girl, because we already saw that the first zombie was actually Martin, and he just took a dose. He snorted it and became a zombie. He snorted Utopium, and it's just the Utopium. It's not the Max Rager that does it. Yeah. And so he's FaceTiming Liv, excuse me. And Enzo comes in and basically says he needs an answer right now from the senator, or whether or not they need to turn off the zombie detectors at the airport. And then he sees that he's FaceTiming Liv and pulls out a gun on Martin and tells him, "You know what? I think you're compromised at this point," and tries to shoot him in the back of the head. That's when we see the plate that Martin has been wearing underneath that really bad toupee, and hit him in the back of the head. It bounces off, and he gets up and, of course, turns towards Enzo, being the stupid idiot that he is, and ends up getting shot in the head, in the forehead, as a matter of fact, and dies in front of Liv on camera. Enzo slams down the laptop closed, cutting off the connection, and Liv has seen everything at this point, and that's the end of where we leave off on the episode. yeah, I don't know where to go with this. Again, we had 2 murders of the week this time around. We really didn't need it, and we kill off, Papa Zombie, if you will. I don't know, but wasn't he drinking Max Rager when he snorted it? No, he wasn't. Pen Farm Girl. He just snorted it. Is all he did. So yeah, it wasn't. It didn't have anything to do with Max Rager. Even Ravi has been using the Utopium, straight Utopium, to make the rats into zombies. So yeah, I like the shot to the back of the head. Pretty good. Thanks, Joe. This one was a hard one because it was just all over the place. This episode was just kind of wonky again. I It was okay, but it wasn't great. You know what I mean? It's really going out with a whimper and not a bang the way it should be. That's because Rob Thomas is focusing everything now on that really stupid Lost Boys um, TV series that he's doing for CW. It got shit canned. The first one that came out, he's having to redo it all from scratch again, and that I'm pretty sure it's the reason why he's out there. Maddie Fernandez says, I think they killed Martin because Enzo is an extremist from the zombie side, and they want a full-on war between humans and zombies with Dolly on the human extremist side. Well, Dolly is also now working with the general. She has, and that whole thing was kind of dropped as well. There's a lot of plot lines that kind of got dropped fairly quickly, and we only have 2 episodes left. Yeah, we have 12 and 13. That's it. So this week and next week, and then we're done. And I don't think it's going to go out all that well, unfortunately. I mean, it's not going to be as bad as Game of Thrones, but it's not going to go out. Razor hair dumps. What the hell's that, Joe? Not everything is as good as Legion. I know, Joe. I know not everything could be as good as Legion. Yeah. Well, they wanted rich guys, lots of rich guys. No, it wasn't that, Mr. Roboto. They're trying to spread it as much as possible. Conventions like that get everybody across the board. So yeah, it is feeling a bit rushed. I agree with you, Anthony Greenslade. It's feeling a lot rushed. And again, it didn't need to be. They had 13 episodes. 13 episodes is more than enough to wrap everything up. So yeah. And I agree with you. I didn't like the ending on this episode either, Anthony. It wasn't anything good. I still love the actors. Rose doing the whole drag queen setup and all that stuff where she's, I had to wear something to make myself pop against these green walls. And then of course, Clive's like, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody's going to notice this. And then of course the manager of the drag club is the only one that notices it and mentions it to her and Clive. And she gives Clive that look. So, oh man, the Romeros are a backup. I don't know if the Romeros are a backup, Mr. Roboto. I think that was supposed to be part of another plan that they originally had going, and then there's too many writers right now, I think, that are vying to have their voices heard, and they're throwing everything they can at the wall to see what's going to stick, when really they just needed to have one way of how it was going to end. Rob Thomas needed to set that up since he set everything in motion to begin with. But it feels like he wasn't in the room at all for any of this. Him and I can't remember the woman's name who also writes it with him. So yeah, I feel like they both have been absent and have left the B team to do this, or the Z team actually. But there's not that many Romeros that are there. They have what, a handful of Romeros. I think they said there's like 10 Romeros, and that's really not that much. Joker says, Dennis, you hear about this new Netflix show with Katie? Yeah, I did, but it's a movie, is all it is. Nothing else. prototypes. I don't know. I really don't know. Romero's is an army in case they need to fight. Well, they have them under control by injecting them with Max Rager. So they were using the Max Rager to inject the Romeros so that they can control them. But they're still docile now at this point because we saw that with Liv and Ravi going through them. I don't know. There's some stuff. Maybe it'll make sense by the end of the the end of the series. I hope so. But yeah, right now I'm just like, yeah, this is really, really shoddy writing. And yeah, I agree with you, Anthony. It did seem like it ended way too abruptly. Yeah, they really need to explain themselves. They really need to explain themselves. So, with that said, if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button down below here. You can hit the dislike button. I just ask you to go down in the comment section and tell me what it is you don't like about the show. Give me some constructive criticism. If you want to see when I'm going to be on live again next, you can hit the bell. If you already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can go into the bell settings and get as many or as little notifications as you want from me. If you want to see when I'm going to be on next, you can go to my website, suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule there, which is also mirrored on my Facebook page. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, and I also have a Patreon page as well. Patreon page does not have any tiers set up at the moment. Do I have a Mephisto figure? I do not, Mr. Roboto. Have you watched the promo for the next episode? I think I did, Maddie. I can't remember. It was kind of a blur. No, I did not. I take that back, Maddie. I did not watch it for the next episode because I was watching it late last night. Lost Boys 20-year sequel. It's supposed to be they flipped the genders on it again. So yeah, it's female-led Lost Boys. Don't ask me why, and why is it still called Lost Boys then? If it's maybe because there was already a series called Lost Girl. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. I'm going to finish it out. Of course, there's going to be 2 episodes that are going to be left. It's going to be this week and, of course, next week. And hopefully they are going to actually, go out with a bang. Is it going to be action packed, Maddie? Good. I've got to see the preview for next week then, or this week, I should say. I keep saying next week. It's this week. I keep forgetting I'm doing two. But hopefully you guys will stick around at 7:00. I'm going to be doing last week's Krypton. And of course, tomorrow is going to be Krypton as well. And Thursday is going to be iZombie. Friday is going to be Swamp Thing. And Saturday is another doubleheader. It's Saturday morning blast off in the morning and the very first episode of season 1 of The Boys in the evening. So, and of course, Legion next Monday. Legion, which I think we can all agree, Legion is just fucking awesome. It really is. It's I know not every show can be like Legion, and especially this week's. This week's was awesome. It really, really was. And Preacher is going to start soon as well. Preacher is going to start on Sundays. That is going to be August 21st, I think is what I remember. I've got it written down, so I'll have to look at that. Never watch Legion drunk or high. Exactly. The Boys, like the meme, me and the boy. No, The Boys, as in the comic book, The Boys. That is very violent and very graphic. Garth Ennis and why am I blanking on his name right now? Derek Robertson. There we go. Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. Yeah, and the last season of Preacher. Exactly. So we'll see what happens. I know that Seth Rogen was given Game of Thrones crap at Comic-Con this last weekend during the whole Preacher panel. He was doing a lot of shit talking about it. A lot of shit talking. But with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you, everybody who joined me in the chat. Hopefully, you'll transition over at 7 o'clock to Krypton, and I will see you then. And hopefully, those of you who are out there watching this on video, I'm glad you made it to the end of the video as well. Thank you for joining me. Remember, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, you're going to see a video pop up here directly, exactly for you. It's going to take a look at your algorithms, YouTube is, and they're going to pluck a video from my video library and pop it up here. And whatever my most recent video is going to be, popped right up in here. Thank you, everybody, and I will let you guys go. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find out that your new show has been shit canned by the studio, and they're making you do it all over again from scratch. And that's why your current series is suffering so much from bad writing. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you in a little bit for Krypton. Good night.